What's up, Ransom Reviews back. Just steadily churning out that content that nobody asks for. Today I'm doing a book haul. This is a bunch of books that I just bought because I don't need them in January, and they have just arrived. So let's take a look. First, I got I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I have a lot of shocking gaps in my reading history of books that I've read and haven't read. And for some reason, this is one that I have not read, even though it's obviously very, very well known. And so I saw this for a good price. I think it was $4 or $5. And so I picked it up. Next is A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman. Can I get the light to work to show the book? Probably not. This is an author that I am having mixed feelings about. I read his book Beartown last year, and it was my #1 fiction book of 2020. I absolutely loved it. It was phenomenal. I am currently reading the second book in that series, and I kind of hate it. So I might have jumped the gun by going out and buying like every book he's ever written. This is about a grumpy old man and maybe a cat. He's a weird curmudgeon. I don't know. We'll see how I feel about this because I am sort of teetering on the Bachman roller coaster at the moment. Next up is Mythology by Edith Hamilton. I have been obsessed with Greek mythology since I was a kid. I found it so fascinating when I was young, and I've read quite a few books about it now that I am not young. What do I have? I've got a bunch. Well, I'm not just going to stare at the books the whole time, but let's suffice to say that I've read quite a few. I think I have Robert Graves over here. I think I've got Stephen Fry's fun one. This one is supposed to be one of the best books about Greek mythology, and so I'd had it on my list for quite a while, and I finally picked it up. Next is Boy Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton. I don't know what this is. Why did I buy this? 12-year-old kid, his brother's a mute, killed a babysitter, drug-dealing stepfather, crappy mother, and now he's going to fall in love. And criminals. Okay, so yeah, it seems like melodramatic fiction, which I can get into sometimes. I'm not sure where I found this one. It might have come from Goodreads, like they do awards at the end of the year, best fiction, best fantasy, best sci-fi. I usually thumb through those just to see if there's anything that piques my interest, and I think that's where this one came from. Next up is Chaos, the Truth Behind the Manson Murders. This was recommended to me by a friend that I work with. He said it was craziness and it was a book that I needed to read. It's about the Manson murders. I said that already, didn't I? And sort of like, don't trust the government, man, and conspiracies and all that stuff. I can dig it. I don't trust the government. I mean, I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat, but I'll go down the rabbit hole a little bit, and I'll check this one out. Next up is Traitor's Blade by Sebastian de Castell. I've heard about this author a bit. In fact, I just finished Kings of the Wild, which was excellent, and he said that Sebastian de Castell was one of the guys that he looked up to before he wrote his book. So also, right on the cover, let's see if we can see that, a quote from Con Iggulden, one hell of a good book. Con Iggulden is my favorite writer of historical fiction. I have maybe 8 of his books on my shelf, a whole section down here for him. So if he says it's good, I believe him. Next up is Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. I had recently read a book last year called The Sun Does Shine. This was a Oprah book club book, which I have mixed success with. But it's about a black dude who was put on death row for like 30 years wrongfully and finally got his freedom late in life. And Brian Stevenson was his lawyer, was the lawyer of this foundation who basically works pro bono trying to help people that he thinks were wrongfully convicted. When I read that book, I didn't love the book, but my favorite part of the book was hearing about this dude, Brian Stevenson, because he seems like a hero. Honestly, he's like, this is my idea of a hero, someone who sacrifices his own well-being and his own life to improve the lives of others. I think he just, I don't know. I'm fascinated with this guy. And so this is his book, and I wanted to support him because that's amazing. What he's doing is amazing. And apparently they just made this into a movie as well. Maybe is going to be a movie with the dude from Creed and Friday Night Lights and Black Panther. What's his name? Yes, that guy whose name I can't remember is going to be in this movie. So that's cool. Okay, next. Empire of Silence by Christopher Rucchio. Pretty cool cover, I gotta say. It's got a weird little helmet thing on, little moon in the background, little blade, somebody dying. I don't know what this book is about. It's got a quote from James S.A. Corey, who is who are the authors of the Expanse series. And yeah, it's science fiction, obviously. I can't remember where I found this one. I can't remember if it was from the Goodreads list or maybe from Media Death Cult, which is a YouTube book review channel that I really like watching. But we'll see. It's a big one. And I have very mixed results with fantasy and sci-fi that is this thick. But let's give it a chance. Next, speaking of giving something a chance, Full Moon by Jim Butcher. This is the second book in the Dresden Files. I did not like the first book in the Dresden Files. I really didn't like it. And I keep hearing about how amazing this series is, but I also keep hearing that it starts off pretty rough and you got to wait until about book 4 for it to really pick up. I don't know if I have that much patience. I'm not a huge fan of these large series books anyways. And like I said, I really did not think the first one was, I thought it was a borderline bad book. But I've got the second one here and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's a little bit better. If it's a little bit better, then maybe I'll go for the third one. But if I have the same reaction to this as I had to the first Stormfront, I think it was called, Dresden File book, then I think we're done. I think it's safe to say me and Jim Butcher are not going to do this thing. Next up is Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, I read Children of Time last year, and I think it was my second rated science fiction book of the year. I absolutely loved it. I rave about it. I tell everyone about it. I reviewed it on this channel. This is the second book in that series. I actually held off from buying this for a while because I'd read that it's not as good as the first one. But again, I found it for a decent price, and I have a problem buying books, as you can see. So I figured I'd pick it up, give it a try. Next up is Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. I walked by this in the bookstore like 100 times and didn't buy it because I just heard that this was not his best series. This was not his best work. And I avoided it for a long time. But then I encountered a book sale where I found the books 2 and 3 in this series for like $3 each, new books. And so I ended up buying both of them, which meant that I, of course, had to pick up the first one. So that's how we came to get Half a King. I have a massive collection of Abercrombie books now. For some reason, there's just certain authors that I find their books to be accessible. They're always there. Mark Lawrence, Joe Abercrombie, I find their books everywhere. So even though they're maybe not my favorite writers, I do really, really like Abercrombie. I have a lot of their books. I have a lot of Abercrombie books, and I have a lot of Mark Lawrence's books. Next up, is Sea of Rust by C. Robert Cargill. I really love this cover. It's really cool. You can't really see how colorful it is, but it's really nice. So this definitely came from Media Death Cult. I think this was a book that was recommended to him by his viewers on his channel, and it piqued my interest, and I looked it up and I said, oh, that sounds cool. And then I was able to find it. Humans are dead, robots doing things. Yeah, sounds great. Post-apocalyptic fiction is usually interesting for me. And the last one, Priest of Bones by Peter McLean. I've heard this one. Oh, look at that. When I move it, it's like the blood is, ooh, yeah. Anyway, this is really dark, grim, dark fantasy from what I've heard. I've heard you hear that title being thrown around with Abercrombie a lot, but I've heard that this is like even darker than Abercrombie, like almost too dark. And I just figured, why not see how dark I can go until I get to a point where I'm like, no, I don't like this anymore. Maybe this will be my limit. I'll check it out. So that is my book haul from January that has just arrived. If you have made it this far, something's probably wrong with you, but thank you. And I'll see you next time on Rants and Reviews.